First, India is an indeed oasis of macro stability in otherwise a turbulent world. Numbers speak for themselves, but the important thing is whether it is for the current financial year or the future, our India's growth numbers stand out in comparison to any other part of the world. Indian obesity is a major issue for reaping the demographic dividend. Physical health, mental health, emotional health, all three factors are necessary apart from skilling and education for the country to be able to reap the demographic dividend. So this economic survey, while in the last two surveys we have focused much more on mental health, this time we also focus on the physical health aspect. And one early and easy step that the private sector can take is to allow food labeling to reflect the risks of what people are consuming. Compulsive scrolling and social comparison is linked to anxiety and depressive symptoms, and exposure to screen time, sedentary lifestyle, ultra-processed food consumption increase the risk of anxiety and suicidal thoughts significantly among our adolescents and also in the people in the early working age population as well. And this is a silent scourge, and we need to fix that if we are going to achieve our long-term growth aspirations. If you look at the areas which are immune to AI diffusion, these are elder care and nursing, culinary arts, advanced tool and die specialization, early special needs education, public health outreach, environmental restoration. All of them can be pursued in areas because we have shortage of skilled personnel in these areas, and they're also resistant to the diffusion of AI in terms of future employment and income earning prospects. This fund manager has predicted it in 2020 that the world will face populism, trade wars, financial repression, military conflicts, and negative real yields. Personalities are not the reason why the world is today looking at trade wars, military conflicts, and populism with negative real yields and financial repression to follow. These are products of choices that were made some 15 to 18 years ago, and therefore the train has already left the station with respect to these consequences, and they will be with us for the next 5 to 10 years as well. And that is something we need to take as given when we look at our own policy options and priorities. And reflecting that is the price of gold, which goes up by more than $100 to $200 per ounce every day. So in other words, gold is not only responding to global uncertainty, but also the question marks arising with respect to the store of value of fiat currencies around the world. Precise about the timing. Scenario one, business as usual in 2025, continuing this year, but with less security and more fragility, and we attach a 40 to 45% probability to that. It is disorder, but managed disorder. Scenario two is a worse version of scenario one, and that will result in sharper trade-off for emerging economies, including India, between autonomy, growth, and stability, and supply chains will become even more politicized. Scenario three is the worst of them. It's a systemic shock cascade. Leverage AI infrastructure, which we spoke about earlier, will expose fragile business models. Financial, technological, and geopolitical shocks amplify each other and feed into each other. And this low probability but high impact outcome will have macro risks even exceeding those that we saw in the wake of 2008. Why Swadeshi matters? Because the nature of the global system has changed. Trade is no longer reciprocal. Markets are no longer neutral, and supply chains have become instruments of state power, and we have seen them in several examples across the world. And therefore, Swadeshi is a legitimate policy instrument in such a world. Countries have to take care of their priorities, and therefore we should not be squeamish about swearing by Swadeshi in this kind of global environment. Currency depreciation that we are witnessing today isn't something unique to India. Countries which have a current account deficit have seen their currencies depreciate. If you look at the performance of currencies since the millennium began, the Indian rupee actually has done quite well. And the performance even since COVID, India is in the same ballpark, not an outlier. So we need to get the breathless headlines about the Indian rupee into perspective. In other words, We have to start with making things at home competitively. In August 2025, in his Independence Day speech, the Honorable Prime Minister said, "Dam kam and dam zyada." In one sentence, he actually has captured the essence of export competitiveness: good quality at affordable prices. So can we make things at home competitively? Second step to that is progress from there to strategic resilience. Can we keep functioning if the world breaks down? That is resilience. And the third step in the process is, can the world keep functioning if we break down? If the answer is no, then we have become strategically indispensable. And that is the goal we should be looking at in the current geopolitical and geostrategic compulsions that we are facing. This economic survey, despite the geopolitical environment being what it is confidently upgrading India's potential growth to 7% per annum from 6.5% 3 years ago. And chapter 1 gives you details on how we managed to arrive at this positive conclusion on the back of the track record that the Indian economy and policy makers have been able to display post-COVID in particular. So India's potential growth is 7%, and that is why you saw that our GDP projection for 26-27 is between 6.8 and 7.2%. Of course, subject to geopolitical risk factors, commodity prices, etc., all of them can derail the calculations on a short-term basis. But on a sustained medium-term trend growth for the Indian economy, we believe now it is 7%. If we are able to achieve manufacturing and export competitiveness and pursue further process reforms in the areas of land and cross-subsidization and bring down the cost of manufacturing, this 7% can even rise to 7.5% and 8% in the next few years as well. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, we have done well. As they say in German, wir haben gut gemacht. We are doing better post-COVID. But the world is more predictable and dangerous. We acknowledge that. We have promises to keep and miles to go before we can sleep. We have to reimagine the way we are organized as a state and reimagine the way we function as well. And that applies to the government, the private sector, and households. Businesses and households have to internalize their responsibilities. As a society, we have to embrace delayed gratification. Then we will become strategically indispensable. The late Sir Mark Tully said, "I am an optimist because I have seen the Indian people do the impossible every single day." We concur with him, and as a mark of respect to him, we feel the Indian people will do the impossible every single day in the next 25 years on our way to Viksit Bharat. Thank you very much.